Hey guys, it's Hurricane Joe again, and right now I'm going to show you probably the most important video of understanding the Steve Clark style. My favorite album, which I think is the greatest rock album of all time, is Pyromania. And in order to understand what made that album so unique, this is the first time we really see Steve looking like he had free reins to take his classical training and put it all together and create his own unique rhythm style. And hopefully this video will help you understand why Phil Collins said, hey, when I first joined the band and I heard these great songs, nothing like that I've ever heard it before. And the reason being was Steve Clark and some of the unique things he was doing. I want to show you 3 techniques that Steve used that he broke down his chords to make him unique and change the Def Leppard sound forever. The 3 things were, I like to call it, was he had an inversion with a 3rd power chord inversion, which was unique. He also had a F-shaped chord bass, which he borrowed from Page, minor chord technique that he used. And last but not least, he used a little Lydian major power chord jam. And you'll hear it in some of the popular songs of Def Leppard, and you'll understand when you're learning to play guitar. I knew the chord was a G, but for some reason I could never get it to sound like the album, and hopefully this will help you see why. The first thing we're going to go to is probably one of the most popular songs off the album, is Photograph. And one of the main fun riffs in it, Steve showed this technique off for the first time. And as it goes, oh, look what you've done to this rock and roll clown, oh, and this part. Now the chord in mention that I want to show you is this. Would you believe, even though I'm playing a B and a G, this is actually a G chord, and it's a G inversion. Remember I showed you the inversions before, where if you played like a C here, and you have the C note on the A string and the 3rd fret, and you also had the G note on the D string and the 5th fret. But if you play the C inversion down on the G string and the 5th fret, that's the same as this. But it sounds a little different. Well, that's using an inversion with a 5th. Steve also did the inversion with a 3rd, using the B note. Now that's not a C, but it's actually an inversion of a G. This is the same as this. But you see how it sounds different now? That G, it sounds completely different, and it adds a whole new flavor to how something could sound. Now look at this if I played it without the inversion. Now you see how that sounds different, completely different? But when I use that inversion, you add a whole new flavor and a completely different style to that song. And they use that chord all the time, that progression. Would you believe? This is a G, this is an A, this is a B. You can slide that same progression down the neck using the 3rd and the root. So that was a cool thing that was unique that Steve did. A second thing he did, which I want to talk about, is he played minor chords in a different way. What Steve realized is when you're in a rock band and you're playing with a bunch of distortion and it's super loud, if you try to play the traditional minor chords with all the notes in there, it could sound muddied or cluttered, especially with distortion. So he figured out a way to play a chord, still give it that minor flavor, but at the same time, you could use distortion and it still sounded rockin'. What he did was, he would take that F-shaped chord, remember I showed you that with Page, this is a standard, that's a standard F-shaped chord, and he knows if you slide that to the G, that's a G and that's an A. What Steve recognized is, this is the root again on the D string. If you play the root on the D string here, and then the next note that's on the G